They store everything. If it's a free account, they're doing whatever they want with your data. There is no security whatsoever. It will end up in their training data set and it is out there forever. You can't unring that bell. What used to take 100 hours now might take 2, and you might not even need an engineer for it. I've got this guy. Can you do it for $20,000 instead of $200,000? Everything's happening at a pace that's way faster than anything we've ever seen in human history. This is the fastest. And so I agree, adapt or die. It's go time right now. The old SaaS playbook, which is dead, in my opinion. It doesn't take 9 to 12 months. And it doesn't take $1 million to get your MVP off the ground. It takes 2 months and $100,000 to get your idea off the ground. There's no first mover advantage anymore.
Ready to revolutionize your content game? Meet Modern IQ, the AI tool that creates SEO optimized, plagiarism-free blog posts with just one click. No more writer's block or endless hours of content creation. Generate high-quality articles that boost visibility, save time, and slash marketing costs. Whether you're a startup or an established business, this tool is your content team, marketing expert, and SEO guru in one. Click on the link in the description to claim your free article and join forward-thinking entrepreneurs who are working smarter, not harder. The future of effortless marketing is here. Are you ready to dive in? Every business wants the power of AI, but few are willing to risk their most valuable asset to get it, their data. Tools like ChatGPT make life easier, but for companies in law, healthcare, or finance, using them can mean giving up privacy, compliance, or even client trust. My guest today saw this problem long before most people did. For over 20 years, he built world-class software for brands like Microsoft, Samsung, and Salesforce through his agency Barefoot Solutions. But as the world shifted to AI, he realized the biggest opportunity wasn't just smarter tech, it was secure tech. That insight led him to create Barefoot Labs and Compass, a private AI platform that gives companies ChatGPT level power without giving away their data. In today's conversation, you'll learn how to use AI safely and strategically, how privacy can become your biggest competitive edge, and what it really takes to future-proof your business in the AI era. I'm Linda Vo, and this is Inspired by Success. So without further ado, let's welcome digital innovator and AI visionary, Hunter Jensen. Welcome to the show, Hunter.
Thanks so much for having me on, Linda.
I'm curious to know about AI privacy and data control. So how can businesses use AI tools like ChatGPT without risking their private data or client information?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not the easiest solution, which I learned, which kind of led to the creation of Barefoot Labs and Compass. But what a lot of CEOs maybe don't realize today is that if you're not giving your team tools, these AI tools to use, they're using ChatGPT anyway. And they're putting your entire company at risk. You're risking compliance issues and regulatory issues, data security issues, client trust issues, all of that, right? And so you've got to give them the tools to do the job. And you might think, okay, well, I'll get them Microsoft Copilot, right? And that might give them the support they need. But that's just scratching the surface in terms of what you can do. I mean, Copilot is really only good with other Microsoft products. And most companies don't have only Microsoft products across the board. And so then you need to start thinking about more comprehensive solutions that can give your team, access to a large language model and a vector database to store files, search through files and all the rest of it, connect to your other systems like, your CRM or your accounting or your business intelligence, and really give them the platform so that they can boost the efficiency and productivity and even the quality of their output, leveraging this brand new technology. And so really, ultimately, I think that's where all businesses that have knowledge workers are going to end up, is providing a private, secure AI platform for their team. If you don't, you're going to lose out to your far more efficient competition, because that's where everybody's headed.
So what are the hidden dangers of sharing company data with public AI tools? Because is it true that if you just go on ChatGPT and you're asking a question, they won't save it in their pool? I don't know. If you delete that last thing that you don't want. What are your thoughts on that? And what are the hidden dangers?
Right. So first of all, they store everything. they kind of necessarily have to store everything, even for their own regulatory compliance. Depending on what license you pay for, or maybe you don't pay at all, there are varying degrees of kind of contractual obligations that you have with OpenAI when you click yes on your terms of service or what have you, that nobody reads. If it's a free account, they're doing whatever they want with your data. There is no security whatsoever. It will end up in their training data set, and it is out there forever. You can't unring that bell. Now, when you start getting to some of the paid enterprise accounts, they are agreeing in the terms of service in the licensing agreement that, for example, they won't store it for longer than X number of days, or they won't use it in their training data. It's up to you to decide if you trust that. I have concerns about it, but even if they are following the terms of those agreements, there are still other risks, right? As an example, this lawsuit with the New York Times, they had a judge tell them they're not allowed to delete some of the data, even though they were obligated through these agreements with their customers to delete it. They weren't allowed to, according to this judge. Now, that has moved around a lot, but there was a period where it was well, what do you mean we're going to be in violation of all of these agreements? So there's that. There's also just the fact that even if they're not using it for their training data, they're still storing it, which means a third party is storing your confidential data. Now, who's one of the biggest targets for cyber attacks on the planet right now? It's OpenAI, right? It's got just a tremendous amount of information about a tremendous amount of people and businesses and all the rest of it. And they're vulnerable. And, they are young. They have they're getting mature, sure. But it takes a decade to go from a startup security posture to Microsoft's security posture. And they're not there yet. And so by putting your data on their servers and allowing it to be stored there, you're risking a breach, a data breach. What would happen if, your client data got into the hands of bad actors, right? You'd lose your clients. You might lose your business in a lot of industries. Now, this isn't for every industry, when maybe some consumer facing stuff or other types of companies that aren't dealing in a ton of confidential, sensitive information or aren't dealing in a complicated regulatory environment, you might be able to use ChatGPT. But most businesses over a certain size get to a point where they're dealing with a lot of confidential information, and data security and privacy is important. And so for those, you need to look elsewhere. You need to look internally. You need to own it. This is going to be the way that we operate our businesses, the way that our knowledge workers do their jobs is going to be through this platform. And you can be reliant on a third party for that, or you can own it. And I am a proponent of owning it and controlling your future. There's nothing to stop them for a year from now to quadruple the price, as an example. If ChatGPT could do that, what kind of position would that put you in if you were relying on it for a lot of your knowledge workers, day to day? So there's all sorts of risks to kind of relying on third parties for such what will become a mission critical system for your business.
For small business owners, though, what's the simplest way to protect their sensitive data while still using AI?
Yeah, so for small business users, what I'm describing is a little out of reach right now. If for no other reason, the hardware is too expensive to run. You need a bunch of GPUs to be able to run models, even for inference. And so what I do recommend for small businesses, if you're on G Suite, make sure your team has Gemini. If you're on Microsoft, make sure your team has Copilot. That is a very good start, and it's not expensive. And it's a nice way to dip your toe in a way that's not going to break the bank. It's not going to require a bunch of, heavy duty servers. And you might say, well, Hunter, doesn't that just mean they're sharing their data with Google and Microsoft? And I say, yes. But here's the thing. You as an organization have already decided to trust your data with either Google or Microsoft, which almost every company, at least in this country, is on. You've already decided that they're a trusted partner and they can be trusted to store your data securely. And so this would just be an extension of that trust. Further, Google and Microsoft are not startups. They don't have a startup security posture. Microsoft in particular has some of the best security on the planet. And so these are places that you can begin to start using some of these toolings without having to worry too much about where your data is going. It should stay in kind of your environment, in your tenant, behind your firewall, if you will.
So I want to talk about AI strategy for entrepreneurs as well. What's the difference between using AI tools and building real AI infrastructure? And what does that matter long-term for growth as well?
Right. So entrepreneurs right now are at what I consider to be a pretty extraordinary time. And the reason for that is that the incumbents are vulnerable. The incumbents are vulnerable because they have spent years building up traditional software as a service, which now amounts to technical debt. They are in a position where they are taking AI and kind of bolting it on to whatever it is that they built using, I can't believe I'm calling it traditional software development, like what I've done in my career for the last, 20 years. But they're stuck with their data model and with all of their software modules and all of these things. And it's a real disadvantage. Building kind of AI first and with AI from the ground up gives you a massive head start. Like the old SaaS playbook, which is dead, in my opinion, was, okay, you have your idea, you raise a little money, you go heads down, you build for like 9 to 12 months, you launch, ta-da, you're the first to market and you have the first mover advantage. And you have now about 9 to 12 more months before somebody else catches up to you. And so you have to keep moving forward and keep growing that business. And if you can stay ahead, you can be a unicorn, right? That's the promise of software as a service. But that doesn't work anymore. And the reason it doesn't work is it doesn't take 9 to 12 months. And it doesn't take $1 million to get your MVP off the ground. It takes like 2 months and like $100,000 to get your idea off the ground. There's no first mover advantage anymore. And so you have to really be thinking about how you're going to have a competitive moat when you're building your startup, because the old like lean startup, methodology and all that, I think that's going the way of the dinosaur. I think we're moving into a new era where you need a different competitive advantage. And the best one I have seen thus far is that you have access to some sort of proprietary data set that nobody else has. If you have that, you have a much longer term advantage if you build your startup around that. And you build it AI first, meaning you can release new versions of software so fast compared to how long it used to take. So anyway, that's to me how entrepreneurs should be thinking about new businesses, new startups right now, is not the old SaaS playbook, everything AI first, and where's your competitive advantage? And so, I'll give you a little anecdote for that. This was 2 years ago, and I needed a new headshot for my LinkedIn because I didn't have a beard on my LinkedIn, and it was weird. People didn't recognize me because now I have a beard. And what I used to do is hire a photographer and put on my suit and go to their studio and sit there for an hour, and it was awful, and I hated it. Mm. And I got maybe 1 or 2 pictures that I liked. So this go around, this is when diffusion models were pretty new, but I thought, I bet AI can give me a nice headshot. And I looked around, sure enough, there was a company called Insta Headshots. I took a bunch of selfies wearing my t-shirt, and it gave me back like 50 options. And this was 2 years ago. So in many of them, I was missing teeth or I had a third arm or whatever, but there were a few good ones. And I paid $20 for it. And I thought, that's neat. That's a neat business. And then I thought about it a little more, and I thought, well, maybe I should build that. I could build that in a weekend. And then I thought a little bit more, and it was like, wait, anybody could build this in a weekend. There's nothing like, and sure enough, a month later, there's like 20 of them. And now they're free because there's so many of them that you can't make any money on it. And so that's a good example of where maybe before you'd have a nice run before your competitors got online, but now it's like, no, you're not. And it's going to be a race to the bottom.
Yeah. There's so much competition with AI companies and AI tools out there. There's way too many out there too. And I don't know, what the competitive advantage is and how long they'll last, but it just keeps improving constantly, like what you mentioned, the headshot ones. Before last year, you'd see 3 fingers or something, but now it just keeps getting better and better as well. So
you can get a 2-minute video of yourself talking and it looks pretty good now, right?
Yeah.
How fast that happened.
Yeah, exactly. How can other entrepreneurs identify what parts of their business is ready for AI and what parts aren't? Because, now that it's so easy to create really fast and there's so much competition out there, though, what are your thoughts on that, and what parts of their businesses, they shouldn't rush?
Yeah. So video's not great still. I wouldn't do any video projects yet. Next year, but not this year. In terms of where to look, what I like to tell like business owners and CEOs is this is a language model. So identify areas of your business where you're either consuming a lot of content or you're generating a lot of content. So what do I mean? Well, I review.
How can entrepreneurs identify what parts of their business is ready for AI and what parts of their business isn't, given that there's so much competition out there?
It's a good question, and it's kind of hard to figure out right now. It's not video. Video's not ready, maybe next year. But what I like to tell people is that these are language models, large language models. What are some areas of your business where you are either consuming a lot of content or you're generating a lot of language, a lot of content, right? As an example, I look at contracts a lot and like non-disclosure agreements. I probably sign 5 non-disclosure agreements a week. And there's only really one term in there that I won't agree to, which is non-compete. Sometimes they slip that into an NDA. And so rather than read these 18-page NDAs, I feed it into AI, little AI tool, and it tells me if there's non-compete language in there. So that just saved me the time for consuming 18 pages of content. And so look for areas where there's a lot of content being moved around in one form or another. Clinical style trial protocols, for example, are like 50 pages. Investor deal books are another 50 pages. These things take 6 to 8 weeks to generate. Your compliance reports are a tremendous amount of effort that people put into these things. These are all opportunities now to really have an assistant help. It's not going to replace, at least not now, but it's going to get you like 70, 80% of the way there. It's going to save you so much time. So that's area number one. And then area number two is around automations. And what a language model can do now is understand documents like maybe a junior analyst would. And so I look at a traditional business, let's call it, escrow, home escrow service, right? Most of that job is taking information from one place and putting it into another document and then sending that document out and then getting, you get your title and then you get your insurance and then you have to report that to the bank. And then, it's just a lot of copy pasting and moving things around. And 5 years ago, if you had asked me, can you build me a platform that would automate that? I would say yes, but it's going to be prohibitively expensive and take way too long. It'll take a decade for you to make back the investment. You should just pay people to do that. Now it's trivial. Like the idea of just like pulling a single fact out of a 20-page PDF was nearly impossible 5 years ago. And now it is trivial. It doesn't take but a few minutes to build something to do that for you, right? So think about where in your business do you have like kind of just document based processes with just a lot of manual human labor. Those are ripe, not just for like having an assistant help you do them. Those can be automated, like without needing, it needs a little oversight, but like that one's like you can get 99% of the way there.
What are some of the tips that you AI tools that you've used now that you can't live without? So, I'm finding that ChatGPT is helping me with some calendar updates. I don't know. I've been using it for a while, but I don't take advantage of it fully and leverage it. And I know that there's AI agents, for example, but what are some tips you could give for tools that can just make an entrepreneur's life a lot more easier, and something that, things that you can't live without?
Yeah.
Day-to-day simple things even.
So I am a big fan of N8N. Do you know N8N?
No.
It's an automation. It's like Zapier, but it's the AI first Zapier. Fun little anecdote. I don't know if this is true or not, so fact check me, but at a dinner party, I was told that one of the founders of Zapier left to create a new startup to build the AI first version of Zapier because of the exact problem that I mentioned earlier, which is that they were just bogged down with their legacy infrastructure and trying to bolt things on, like use natural language to create a Zap, but it's still a Zap, right? And he thought, no, that's the wrong way to do it. I need like space and I need to build something entirely brand new. But N8N for me, like for just like little time savers, I love. Like as an example, when I finish a sales call, I've got my note taker, which I'm also completely dependent on. I use Fireflies, but they're all pretty good at this point.
Yeah.
When I finish a sales call, my Fireflies will write up my summary, and then I have an automation that automatically grabs the summary from the call and uploads it into the appropriate place in HubSpot, my CRM. That's awesome. Like I don't have to go into the CRM and make a bunch of notes after the call. And it's not a full transcript because that's not very helpful because you're not going to read through that, but it gives you the bullet points and the takeaways from that particular meeting. So when you come back to it a week later, you know exactly what you need to follow up on. Like that just saves me so much time. Like N8N is really cool. You kind of have to be like if you can vibe code, you can N8N, if that makes sense. You have to be a little technical still to really get the most juice out of it. But it's not like you have to write a bunch of code. But you do need to be a little bit technical for now. But there's all sorts of just little nice to haves that make my day easier. You know, as an example, another example, I mean, I don't mean to ChatGPT is incredible. I don't mean to say that it's not. I use it all the time. I love it. I think it and so finding new ways to use ChatGPT and other kind of other publicly available large language models, like really lean into it. Like, it can handle a lot more than people realize, I think. I was meeting with a digital agency owner. He has a software shop, but they do kind of just like smaller branding marketing websites, right? They do a lot of them in a year. And I was having coffee with him and he was like, telling me, oh yeah, business is good. Like I'm not really making any changes. I think this is like, we've got a while. And I got very frank with him. And I said, if you don't make moves right now, this was in June, right now, you're about to get smoked. People are not going to be hiring agencies to build small marketing websites next year. Your business model is done. You need to adapt.
Yes.
And I kind of freaked him out intentionally, because I wanted him to take action. And he was like, God, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And I said, okay, well, here's my advice. Literally put it on your calendar, a 1-hour strategy meeting of how to adjust your business model to the ever-changing landscape of AI. And you're meeting with ChatGPT. I want you to spend the time and ask it for ideas, ask it to validate things, ask it to research things for you, and together come up with a strategy for how you're going to change your agency in the next 12 months to address the massively transforming landscape. And he texted me after and said it was incredible. He had no idea that it could handle that level of like strategic thinking, but it actually can. It really can.
It's getting better and better as well.
Yeah. So like, I use Compass for this, but it's a similar concept, which like when I'm prepping for a demo, I will say, here's the company I'm demoing for. Here's their URL. Tell me a little bit about the company. Okay, great. I'm learning. Here are the job titles of the people that are going to be in the room. Okay. Here's what the product does. Great. What should I demo? And it will spit out 3 killer relevant use cases. And then it'll say, do you want me to create like fake documents that you can use as part of the demo? So you don't have to go find real world examples. Yes, please do that. And so I can come up with this extremely kind of personalized demo for like every single company I demo for. It doesn't take me but 20 or 30 minutes. Hopefully none of them are listening. But just like things like that, I just encourage people in general to push the limits because they're pretty far these days. Like 5, these reasoning models are capable. They are.
It's really powerful. You definitely, as a business, you have to adapt or die. And I can just think of so many jobs. I've spoken to AI guests as well, and we've just talked about so many different jobs that are just going to be wiped out. So, you definitely need to pivot.
Yeah.
Or for me as an entrepreneur, I can't live without AI now, and I just use it every day, all the time, for a lot of things that, strategic thinking, just everything. You could just use it for so many different things, like a therapist, you could just, there's a financial analyst, someone to look over your legal documents, and just to save time as well.
Yeah. If I can actually kind of double click on what you just said about pivoting.
Yes.
Yeah. So Barefoot Solutions, that's a custom software development shop. I've been running it for over 20 years successfully. My business model is selling the time of computer programmers, of developers, of engineers. What used to take 100 hours now might take 2, and you might not even need an engineer for it. It's disrupted my industry kind of first, because the people making the technology are all developers. They're all programmers. So of course, what a great use case to start with. Let's get it to write code, right? That's obvious. And so I had to pivot. That's why I built Compass. Is I don't think my business model is going to be around that much longer. And so I'm not just saying it, I'm living it. I've had easily 5 potential clients. I give them a proposal. It's chunky, 6-figure proposal. And they come back a couple weeks later, and this would be a slam dunk for us last year or the year before. And they come back later and they say, I've got this guy or this gal who says they can use these tools, the vibe coding stack, and do it for $20,000 instead of $200,000. And I say, well, yeah, it'll get you 80% of the way there maybe, and it won't scale, but they probably can. And they say, that's good enough for me. That's good enough for my MVP. Like, it doesn't even make sense to hire us to build your MVP, because you can get it done so much more cheaply on the vibe coding stack. And then when you need like a full production grade application, you still need companies like us. But that's a massive, it went from 100 hours to 2 hours. What does that mean for my revenue when I bill by the hour? Right? So I say you need to pivot because I have already had to pivot. It was slipping away. And who's next? Lawyers. Lawyers bill by the hour too. Lawyers read and write all day.
Yeah, you could just feed the contract into AI and then, yeah.
Right? There's a whole category of professional services that should be scrambling to figure out how they're going to respond. And they're not. I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
The most innovative ones are like looking at it, but no, I haven't heard a solution yet. Like, what are you going to do when it takes 10% of the hours to do the same amount of work? Are you going to get next more jobs, clients? I don't think that's feasible. What's your plan? And they don't have one.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
How can established businesses actually reinvent themselves around AI without losing their identity or their trust, and do what you did, basically pivot?
Yeah, I think most businesses are going to need a pivot. And that's another reason why I think startups are at a really neat advantage right now is, the old metaphor of like turning a aircraft carrier is a lot harder than turning a speedboat, right? It's hard for big companies to pivot. Really, really, really hard. And I think some of them are going to get smoked because they didn't turn the huge aircraft carrier early enough. And so I do think that, being a startup right now, that creates an opportunity for you to fill in that void. But in terms of how do we as an established business reinvent to a certain extent? And look, there's phases to this. First you're using AI to be faster at what you do, but then you need to take a step back and you need to realize that all of your competitors are going to do this too, and they're all going to do it soon. It's not an advantage. It's just keeping up. Hopefully you did it before they did. What does your industry look like when everybody's doing it? You have to really think about that. And so that's what I did. I said, okay, well, what does software look like? What do the AI deployments at these businesses look like? And, I look at like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, BAE Systems, all these big enterprise. They've been working on their own internal AI platforms for the last 18 months. They're rolling them out this year. AI, Goldman Sachs' AI platform came out in January of this year. They've got 37,000 people using it now. And so it's now time for the medium and small businesses to look at that and then look at what their industry looks like and skate where the puck is going. The famous Gretzky quote. I think that I saw an opportunity for these mid-sized businesses that were going to need some very important, very custom, very secure, private, self-hosted AI solutions. And so as I watch my old business model kind of change it into a new, different gear, which is really a lot of like supporting legacy software systems. And I changed it to, I went from a services model to a product. That's how and I've had that same services model for 20 years. That's how drastic things are now. So I'm not just on my soapbox here with my opinion. I'm saying, look at us. It already happened to us. And like, you might be next, right? I've got these kids coming out of college with the computer science degree, and I just feel terrible for them.
Their job's not going to be relevant.
It's not. And when they started, it was like the safest job. I'm going to be a software developer. Facebook's going to hire me. They hired 2,000 a year. And by the time they finished, no, it's not. And so like, you have to adapt. We have to pivot. We have to do it now. Everything's happening at a pace that's way faster than anything we've ever seen in human history. This is the fact.
What's the secret weapon behind every top CEO and entrepreneur? A game-changing executive assistant. Hermessi gives you access to elite EAs who supercharge your productivity. From payroll and admin to social media and customer support, they handle it all so you can focus on growth and big picture decisions. These aren't your average assistants. They're expertly trained, thoroughly screened, and equipped with the latest AI tools to work smarter and faster. Ready to delegate and dominate? Get 15% off your first 2 months with code INSPIRE15. Don't wait. Visit Hermessi, that's HERMESSI.webflow.io, and take back your time today.
And so I agree, adapt or die. Like, it's go time right now.
Yeah. And that's with so many different industries, designers, like lawyers. It's something to think about. But
what are doctors going to do when their patients all go to ChatGPT first and self-diagnose and self-treat and never go to the doctor? Like, they get paid per visit, like a general practitioner, right? It's coming for, like, if you just think about it, even like, this gets a little out there, and I'll wrap with this because this is like way kind of future thinking. But okay, take the oil and gas industry, right? That seems safe. You're pulling natural resources out of the ground and piping them through. It's a physical good. That feels safe. Okay. But imagine a future where these large language models finally figure out how quantum mechanics work and finally figure out how to do nuclear fusion right. Now we have quantum computing, which is like limitless compute. Not limitless, but as close as we're ever going to get. And we have nuclear fusion, which is clean, almost limitless power. Those are like, we're making discoveries in those areas right now, and that's going to accelerate. What happens to the oil and gas industry when we have those two things? We don't need the oil or the gas for a lot of stuff, right? So anyway, I say that because even for the people that feel safe right now, it's a good time to be thinking about the future, because I think it will change for you eventually. It's just, where do you fall on the timeline? Like, if the computer programmers were first, the plumbers, they probably have a pretty long time before the robots can do plumbing, because it's just tricky with robots, and robots are far behind. But your industry is somewhere on that timeline. And so start to think about where and what kind of moves you need to make.
Yeah, that's powerful. Something very thought-provoking. I always like to think about the opportunities and the downsides as well. But if you can adapt and you can innovate fast, then you have a chance.
And there's a huge opportunity, right? I could be sad about my business model, or I could go out and capture this new opportunity that I saw, right? Like, and so and the entrepreneurs, they see the opportunity, right? That's what being an entrepreneur is all about, is finding opportunity, right? Yeah. And so while it may be scary, it also means whenever there's massive disruption, there is massive opportunity if you can find it and you can act fast and you can execute well. So like go out and find your opportunity.
Love it. Yep. Powerful. Is there any key message you want to leave with our audience, and where can they connect with you?
Yeah, the key message I just said, which is you need to pivot, find your opportunity. Mine was compass. You find your compass. If you want to reach out to me, send me an email to hunter@barefootlabs.ai. And I want you to open it with, I would listen to you on the Inspired by Success podcast, and then write whatever you want. And I promise, as a thank you to Linda, that I will respond to every single one of those that comes in. But if you don't put that, I'm probably going to ignore it. I get a lot of emails. So email me. And I love talking about this stuff. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, and you can get me there. Check out our website, barefootlabs.ai. If Compass sounds like something that might be interesting for your business, please also do reach out for that, because that's what I'm selling these days.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Hunter. It's been very eye-opening and a great conversation.
Thank you, Linda.